shit. The theme song. You only got minutes to go off in it. A hot minutes just to spark it, no talking. Listen to the boom and chase the move and know the groove. You know what's up. You only got minutes to get off all in it. A hot minute just to spark it, no talking. Listen to the boom and change the move. You know the groove. See the minutes, I get up in it. From the dirty, from the white beaches to the dirty 30. Gambling, scrambling, we jamming, we banging. Some parts of this old life, it's like dope slanging. See the moves, Abel, Cain don't coexist. The disingenuous is first to get hit. Don't trust these weirdos, that's how the street log goes. My foes in all aspects, see the pull the pistol. Get official with the chin checks, pull them down. Lick around, then look around, no witness. I grit this out, get folded. This world is corrupt and the dangers of this new shit. I bust quick, so bitch, you know what it is. I'm a band apart and we got all hard. For the numbers, for the gunners. We the fan, we will run up on ya. You only got minutes just to go off all in it. A hot minutes to spark it, no talking. Listen to the boom, chase the move and know the groove. Yeah, you only got minutes to get off all in it. Hot minutes to spark it, no talking. Listen to the boom, to chase the move and know the groove. Only minutes, you only got minutes just to go off all in it. A hot minutes to spark it, no talking. Listen to the boom, chase the move and know the groove. We got big moves, carry big tools, collect plaques. And when it lands gold, just know we ain't going back. Matter of fact, we should've been there. Ain't nothing whack, shit's all pressure, can't measure, please know that. Move then react, drama is a rehash. No concern to me, ain't none of y'all burning me. Some of y'all bitch made will speak on the culture, but see through is see through, you can tell by the moves. Ain't like us, it's a product of my state. Some of these guys will tell lies and start fake stories. Generational curse, a culture of warriors, killers, drillers, keyboard haters, only elevators. We are the invaders. Buckshot spark, big hawking and squawking. Bird sucker stay talking. Now what's poppin'? See how you profiting. You only got minutes just to go up all in it. A hot minute to spark it, no talking. Listen to the boom, chase the move and know the groove. Yeah. You only got minutes to get up all in it. A hot minutes to spark it, no talking. Listen to the boom, chase the move and know the groove. Yeah, it gets hot. You only got minutes to get up all in it. Just a hot minute to spark it, no talking. Listen to the boom, chase the move and know the groove. Yeah, motherfucker. Those that are of righteous minds, we are back with Oktane Minutes podcast, and we are covering not something so obscure, but something that I watched, and it also gives relevance to today's situations in the world, or at least in the United States. I'm going to be covering Jungle Fever. Jungle Fever. One of the Spike Lee big heavy hitters. Everything that Spike Lee did was pretty much a heavy hitter. Maybe some of his more later stuff was more independent, underground like. Aside from the first, She's Gotta Have It in 84. No, actually 84, 85, 86, around that time. Which was also redone in a series. You know, as I say, some movies are better served as miniseries, and you know, Spike Lee kind of follows suit. You know, I might cover School Days. School Days, same thing. School Days needs to be not an anthology, but you know, basically following a season of a college. You know, a couple years of college. And if it goes on for a long time, just get a new crop of kids every 4 years, and kids, in and out, drop out. Anyway, so the movie opens up, and I'm going to cover something very controversial. It says dedicated to Yusuf Hawkins. He was a Bensonhurst, East New York teenager from Brooklyn, from New York City borough, Brooklyn, who was shot to death in Bensonhurst, which at the time was a predominantly Italian American neighborhood. Which I think when you get older, because I seen the movie first when I was a little younger, and it's starring Samuel L. Jackson, Ozzie Davis, Ruby Dee, which is his wife, Samuel L. Jackson, and some of his first roles, Halle Berry, and I'm just working off the top, Tim Robbins, John Turturro, and we'll get back to that. But it says dedicated to the memory of Yusuf Hawkins, because the movie kind of also works hand in hand about the issues between, at the time, and probably even still now, with black people and Italian Americans. People can say what they want. There is a world that we live in that does express facets of anti-blackness, even though, and they can say, that, well, they act like this, they act like that. Okay. Still, it doesn't give you the right to push those type of agendas on us and then say it's a figment of our imagination, because even when we go to places like the continent of Africa, right now, currently, we're watching a man named Ibrahim Traoré basically take his country back and rebuild his country, update his country up to contemporary standards, and people that look like him in the United States government deem him a terrorist. Because, and then at the same time, you have people in Europe that will complain like, well, there's too many immigrants. And I said, places like England, especially London, and places like in France, Paris, especially those two countries, in particularly, they have a long history of getting people around the world roped up in bad deals. Terrible deals. I mean, they're almost not even business deals. There's almost like centuries long standing indentured servitude. I'll use that in this situation as far as like Africa is concerned. Not Africa, not blacks in America, but Africans in the continent. Imagine having your home, everything that was produced in your home, on your farm, is taken away by your neighbors that also occupy your home and sent to make your other people in your neighborhood wealthy. And at the same time, they express poor views about you and yourself. But then when Traoré and a bunch of other leaders in the motherland decide that they will no longer accept exploitation, now they're deemed terrorists. Now they're deemed that, oh yeah, they're only doing that to enrich themselves. When you know those are lies. I am not a native Burkina Faso person, and I will probably never plan to visit that country. But I respect the man for saying that, okay, so everybody can come and exploit our country, take our wealth and resources, run us down, and then in turn, when we say no more, we are the problem. Okay? But it goes back to this. Back to the United States. 1989, August the 23rd. Yusuf Kareem Hawkins, he was shot to death in Bensonhurst in a predominantly Italian-American working-class neighborhood in Brooklyn. Hawkins, his younger brother, and two friends were attacked by a crowd of 10 to 30 youths, with at least 7 of them wielding baseball bats. One, armed with a handgun, shot Hawkins twice in the chest. In 2005, former Gambino crime family member Joseph D'Angelo admitted that the killers were present at his request, meant to serve as protection for his property from an expected racially motivated situation, which instead created the situation. So, shout out to, and you'll never hear me say this again, but yeah, shout out to Giuliani. He got you assholes off the street for hurting his kid. Really, the kid was inquiring about a car in Bensonhurst. He wanted a Pontiac, with the brothers, about a used 1982 Pontiac automobile that was for sale. The group of attackers had been lying in wait for black youths that were expected to attend a party at a home of a teenage girl in the neighborhood. So there you go. Just like what Jungle Fever is. It was teenagers that were coming to Bensonhurst. Black teenagers, maybe Puerto Rican teenagers, that were expected to be at a girl's house, teenage girl's house. It really wasn't even, that right there will tell you, it tells you everything you need to know. A lot of this stuff ain't about nothing. It's about the woman. It's about this weirdo jealousy that a lot of men have. Fear black balls, I guess. So they're lying in wait. Some say the girl had previously dated one of the killers, and she had invited black youths to her neighborhood to taunt the neighborhood boys. Hawkins and his friends walked into an ambush. The ambushers blocked, unaware that local residents were waiting to attack any group of black youths they saw. After the murder of Hawkins, police say they had not had in any way been involved in the neighborhood with the neighborhood girl, whom the killer believed. So basically, they're saying that, none of the guys that attacked Yusuf Hawkins and his friends and his brother said that they was not involved with the girl. So it wasn't about jealousy. But I mean, come on, we know the deal. People tend to get weird. People tend to get weird when you are around women. The thing about it, I'm going long. This is going to be maybe the Oktane Hour podcast. This is a paramilitary episode. I'm going to go ahead and deem it that. 10 minutes and 35 seconds in. So they're saying, so Hawkins' death was the third killing of a black male by white mobs in New York City during the 80s. The other two victims were Willie Turks, who was killed June 22nd, 1982 in Brooklyn, and Michael Griffin, who was killed in Queens on December the 20th, 1986. The incident uncorked a torrent of racial tension in New York City in the ensuing days and weeks, accumulating in a series of protests, marches throughout the neighborhood, led by Al Sharpton. So that goes to building into the tension of the movie Jungle Fever. So with the movie Jungle Fever, it was more than just a. It is a. I wouldn't say it's a love story because the people did not love each other. I just think that they were people caught up in they were just caught up in life, right? So that was the opening. Not the official opening, but to explain Yusuf Hawkins, and it kind of builds into this. Really, it's not a comedy. It's really about the tensions between blacks and Italian Americans in New York City in the 80s, or at the current time. Spike Lee was Ryan Coogler, probably before Ryan Coogler was even born, because I don't know how old Coogler is. He can't be much older than me, or if not younger. Anyway, so it's a romantic drama film, produced and directed by Spike Lee, starring, again, Wesley Snipes, Annabella Soria, Ozzie Davis, Ruby Dee, Samuel L. Jackson, Lynette McKee, John Turturro, Frank Vincent, Tim Robbins, Brad Dourif, Debbie Mazar, Michael Imperioli, Anthony Quinn, Halle Berry, and Queen Latifah, who had a cameo in it. Before Queen Latifah, this was back when Queen Latifah was really, she was a hot commodity in hip hop. She was wearing Hotep crowns and everything like that. Flavor Unit, shout out the Flavor Unit in New Jersey. But she was a waitress that did not like the fact that he was with an Italian woman. Which is crazy because, you would think sometimes when people have the same enemy, especially down south, because Italian Americans, and that's a whole other different faucet. There's I might put the link. I'm going to put the link in the thing. There's a lady that was talking about how it was to be an Italian in Mississippi and Louisiana, where Italians first landed. And it's crazy. It's almost like people kind of know the history, but then if they get better treatment, it's almost like a go along to get along. Go along to get along. It even goes for some black people too. Because if you come from a different country, you're kind of treated maybe a little better, but there's still the go along to get along thing, which you shouldn't. You shouldn't. I'm not saying you got to stand up for every cause, but being mistreated is not it. It really ain't. So, the opening of the movie, aside from the Yusuf Hawkins dedication, and as this movie kind of puts itself together, it opens up down a Brooklyn street. It is like a beautiful fairy tale. And Wesley Snipes, a dark-skinned black man, as you know. For those who never heard of Wesley Snipes, but Wesley Snipes is a pretty big deal. He was Blade. And his wife are in a bed, getting it cracking. Okay? So, his wife was named Lynette, or the character, the actress name was Lynette McKee, as Drew Purify. Okay? So, they are making their love. And the little girl does not know what's going on, but she knows when that noise is coming from the room, she knows that mom and dad, when they're wrestling and mom is screaming, they know mom and dad's going to have a good day. And she always asks, like, why y'all be doing that? Y'all be in a good mood after y'all be beating each other up. They rearrange each other's guts and pipe. Anyway, so he goes to work, and as the character's name is Flipper and Gator. Gator's the other brother who will later be described. So Flipper basically is there, and he gets a new temp, and he's like, I want an African American assistant, and he gets accused of reverse racism. Firstly, there is no reverse racism, meaning being racist back. That's not reverse racism. That is just racism. But that's not what he was doing. He felt that he was the only one who was given a good opportunity, because there is a social hierarchy where it's called it is the social hierarchy called the quote unquote one Negro at a time, meaning that to not appear in such a way, we will bring in as few and many as possible to not appear a certain way, and give them high and long opportunities, and say the rest are just not qualified. They will always say that, well, these were special. These guys were of the exception. They happen to get in. Or they'll do something to say, well, they will spin a lie and say, well, most blacks are not into these type of things. That's why they're not here. I mean, and trust me, listen, there's 101 ways to be black. If you see a black person, don't assume that they're into one thing or into their one way, because they're not a monolith. Black people are into all sorts of things. They have all types of careers, and it's just almost a travesty to block anybody from a career because they look a certain way. That's not DEI, because DEI also applies to white people who live in rural areas. DEI also applies to people who put themselves, and who come from states with not even whatever, but states with no opportunities going on, so they have to move. People in wheelchairs, women, elderly, veterans, retired public safety people who are looking to rebrand themselves in a new career. DEI does not mean black. It means that you can't block anybody from nothing. You can't have a good old boys network. You can't be like a real estate agent from Mississippi. Then a bunch of New York white guys, Irishmen, come down to do real estate. You can't block them from having a job and making money. That's what DEI is, Anyway, they accuse him of reverse racism, and they bring in this beautiful Italian woman. And Wesley Snipes reluctantly accepts, and it's they kind of work, and then they hit it off, and they have a late night, and then they talk, and they start to develop more of like a level of comfortability with each other, and of course they end up hooking up, and I'm being very Cliff Notey with this, so they have their hookup, and they start kind of messing around on time to time, and because that's the thing that also happens. You got to be careful. You spend a lot of time around another woman, around the opposite sex. Things might happen, especially if there's a lot of emotional aspects that are put into play. It starts with the emotional cheating. That's way worse. That's way worse than something getting physical. Because there could be a woman that a man sees, and the wife could get madder about the other woman cooking for this man than him having a physical interaction. Because you could pay $40, you pay $150, $160, a couple $100 to get a hooker and crack off, and it's nothing. She get her money, she go and leave. But another woman that cooks for another woman, that's not good. No bueno. Anyway, so as time goes on, he tells his friend, who is played by Spike Lee, and that character's name is, and I should have had the other thing, but Cyrus, who is a Morehouse man, as Spike Lee is, as not Wesley Snipes, but Samuel L. Jackson is too. They're both Morehouse men. So Samuel L. Jackson's the older brother. Gator pops up because they jump around. So they show Gator, and Gator is a vicious, in the thralls of darkness with his drug addiction, with a new and up and coming at the time, Halle Berry. She was a minor character, the girlfriend of Gator. He always does, the mom is trying to do, the mom, who is played by Ruby Dean, her name is Lucinda Purefoy. She still has hope for her son to get better and get clean, and he keeps telling Mama, I just need money to get clean. So anybody says they need donations when they get off drugs, it's bullshit. California sober is not sober. You smoking weed, that's not sober. You just trading your addiction for something else, or just kind of weaning yourself off. Anyway, so he gives money. But the other father, played by Ozzie Davis, which he did a tremendous job, and I loved the character. He was just this hard ass, he was hard ass, stiff, just a very straightforward and just bullheaded old man who was known as the good Reverend Dr. Purefoy, the good Reverend Doctor. They didn't call him Dad. He had this big congregation, and he was saying that he got ousted by the devil. And Wesley Snipes' character, Flipper, he goes, no, Dad. You got ousted because you were stuck in your ways and people didn't like you. You were just not likable. You were a stubborn old man. So he invited Wesley Snipes and the girl, because at this time, by the time the movie goes on, they go on and they talk about all the different attitudes of everybody, right? Because they go to the girl's house that he meets, Angie Tucci, like Flower Tucci. Look that up, Flower Tucci. But Angie lives in a situation to where she basically became the wife and mother to her brothers, the mother to her brothers, the kind of like the replacement wife to her dad. Not in the weird way, but like she's basically become the woman of the house, having to take care of two brothers that live at home that are adult and an elderly aging father. Right? So that's the situation. And they don't appreciate her as some traditional men don't. Trad men. She's trying her best to be a trad wife. Ethnically homogenous, and there's a thing I think that kind of like drove her to the other side. There was like a scene at the dinner scene, and she was just like cooking, and they say, "Oh, I miss Mom. Mom's cooking was better," because these men don't have emotional intelligence. This is the '80s, and also these are men from another ethnic background, and when they lose their wife, the family and the kids all stay together, even if they're grown. They basically live with the parents until they're married and they leave. And sometimes they get married and just live in the same household. They just pass the house on and the other members pass away. Mainly in Italian and maybe Greek homes and stuff like that. So that I guess it kind of makes it to where there's another Italian man who basically has an interest in her, but she's not really interested in him. She's interested in Flipper. So they start sleeping together, and I'm also jumping around. They sleep together, and then Cyrus basically is the only one who knows, but Cyrus goes around and tells his wife. So when his wife finds out, then he basically gets kicked out of his home, and he's trying to get back with his wife. But his wife accuses him of colorism and says, "Oh, well, you see that I was light-skinned. You must have wanted a white woman, and now you have an opportunity for a white woman. You went ahead and went for the shot, and now I'm out here all alone, and you have your white woman." And the good Reverend Doctor said the same thing. They said, well, what? Being black wasn't good enough for you? Now you're going to go dig in the white man's cesspool? You know? That's what he said. And so Wesley Snipes was like, well, I've had enough. You know, you invited us. We're leaving respectfully. So there is a situation where both their parents don't like each other. There's already a level of disrespect going on because the other adults don't care what other grown adults won't, they don't care about, they don't like the other they don't like the other grown adults' decision. And it turns into a thing where he's walking her home. They're in Bensonhurst, and him and Angie get the plan, and then the police come up and they threaten to kill Wesley Snipes' character because they're thinking, oh, this guy was whatever. But really, the tensions was about just the family's preconceived notions and ideas in the world, and how Spike Lee navigates, or not Spike Lee, but even Spike Lee, but how the character of Flipper navigates in corporate America. He's a corporate man who also has to live, he's corporate, so you got to exist in a white world. But then you got to go back to your black world. And sometimes in that world, you are not going to be white, but you're in corporate America, you're not going to be black enough. And that was part of the other subplot to this. Whereas same with John Turturro's character in Angie, right? There was another black woman that comes into the shop and gives magazines, and the Italians did not like black dudes, but they kind of made it known. They say, well, the black lady, yeah, I mess with her, but I can't bring her around my family. So it's like the movie expressed that, yeah, we do like people from outside, but we are so spooked out by these no-nonsense traditions of our families because they don't respect our grown adult decisions that we made for ourselves, even though New York is a very liberal city. These conservative views still pop up because, we're holding on to the ethnic pride. We're holding on to the ethnic pride. Even though America is a place where a lot of people come from foreign countries back in the day off of Ellis Island, and they had the intent of not being where they were from. If I came from Poland, I had the intent of never ever being a Polish. I'm an American now. So you have a lot of people who were immigrants that were determined to shed every bit of that old country off of them, and only in name was their ethnic group going to remain. And even then, some of them, if their name was too hard to spell, they were changing it. And they would anglicize it. They would anglicize their name to become something else, to be more American. People that look like me did not have that opportunity. And there was others. Dark-skinned Mexicans that looked like that had the red native, dark brown native skin, and Asians in East Indians. But most other groups kind of had similar phenotypes, so they were able to shed a lot of their previous country and their previous ethnic activity. Even being from England and or Australia, if you came to immigrate here, being Irish, even if you had a thick accent, after a while, your children and your children's children will shed that. But, you'll still have that namesake just there. And then you can flip it and change it, That's why you had these guys that would sell their daughters off, damn near sell their daughters off to men who were middle-aged, just because they wanted their kids to have a good opportunity, If there was a man who had money and they had a daughter who was,
They weren't gonna keep the daughter in the house. They're gonna let that man with money almost damn near buy their daughter. You know. But okay, so going back to Jungle Fever. I know I'm going on a tangent. Soundtrack was done by Stevie Wonder, if you didn't know, and Stevie Wonder, king of kings when it comes to this music stuff. So anyway, so it basically just showed this constant tension. And then with Gator, there's that other part of Black America where you are definitely not like us, and you give us a bad reputation with Gator. You know, whereas you're in corporate America, which is a great thing. If you can navigate and make a lot of money and being black in corporate America, that is the best thing in the world. But it's also the worst thing in the world because you even existing in corporate America, you're not quite black enough. But when you're a Gator, the other side of Black America, not too black, meaning that, but you are the black stereotype we are trying to avoid. You are too much of the stereotype, you know, because nobody here does crack except for you, Gator. And Gator was banned from the house, and you know, the movie ends on a weird note too. So this is where I think the movie has a blah ending. But I think I know where they're getting at. Is that so when Wesley Snipes basically folded under pressure, and he knew he was wrong, and they knew they were both doing the wrong thing, so they decided to break it off, Angie and Flipper. But at the same time, he was just like, "Oh, I'm gonna leave the apartment. You can have the apartment and whatever, and I'll hold it now, whatever." Angie, they both mutually agree, and then Angie leaves because he was just like, "I don't love you. We were just doing something." So Angie leaves in the middle of the night, goes back home because her family had a tumultuous time. But at the end of the day, Angie is still the dad's like, "Well, Angie's still my daughter. She's not with that black guy anymore, so I'll accept her home." Because that was another thing, the family was attacking her because she was dealing with blacks, just like he was attacked in a different way, because he was dealing with an Italian or a white woman. And it's like, well, you guys were just, you guys were just in the heat of the moment. That's all. Y'all don't love each other. I mean, who's to say that they didn't, But it's really about, like, when you break down the movie, what Spike Lee was trying to say is that, listen, people have free will, and you should live your life according to how you want to live it. Be who you want to be with, regardless of race, religious creed, political. Even now, you know what I'm saying? I might even do I could do a remake and call it MAGA Fever, right? Where a guy who is a liberal starts dating, or even a guy vice versa. If someone is a liberal dating somebody who basically got on the Donald Trump train, and they just kind of hit it off, but then their friends are weird about it. So that's the premise of Jungle Fever. The Jungle Fever is you have these old, irrational traditions, right? Even though, aside from Wesley Snipes doing his wife wrong and like cheating on his wife, but you have the adults gonna do and make their own decisions, but you have these adults with these irrational traditions that basically feel that their opinions and their traditions matter, which they don't. They don't. As a man, you gotta love the woman that loves you. Because, being in some spaces, and I don't mean that so liberally, but In some parts of the world, in some parts in life, you will have to cross pollinate. And when you cross pollinate, because you got to make a lot of money, you got to pay your fucking bills, people will intermingle. Right? And that's the main thing. Things happen. And people mix. And you can't, it's just weird as an adult being mad at another adult making a decision for themselves. This movie is about your own personal responsibility. Can you accept an apology and be friends with somebody? Yeah. I see people mad at Lord Jamar for talking to DJ Vlad again. Why are you mad? There is nothing that those two individuals do that affects your life in any way. You will never interact with those two people. You will never interact with Godfrey, even though you may take Godfrey's side, or you may not like the fact that Lord Jamar is a flat earther. It's weird. For the record, I am not a flat earther. I thought it was just funny to talk about it, and people bit, so I just kept going. But they're adults. And it's just almost like you don't get engagement until you do something that people don't agree with. Which is weird. Maybe, as an adult, you should probably celebrate people's positive decisions. And or just kind of mind your business. Whatever is good for the gander may not be good for the one goose. This has been the 40-minute long diatribe, thanks to Spike Lee. And hopefully I didn't go into a lot of psychobabble. Because I was reading off my phone and I'm spitting from the survival scrolls. But if you do listen, I do thank you for listening. And please hit up my Bandcamp. That's how you're going to support me, unless I get a Patreon. And I'm only going to kick a Patreon on until I get maybe a bigger level of fan engagement or whatever. And even then, it'll be anywhere between 50 cents to $2 or $3. You know what I'm saying? It ain't going to be a whole gang of money. It's going to be a couple of dollars. So, aside from that, shout out to the Sabasun Media, Sabasun family, Sabasun Media and assets. And, Oktane signing off. There will be no song at the end of this, because Stevie Wonder already gave us a wonderful song in a hella fire-ass soundtrack. So, I will have a beat playing on the audio-only version. And I'll leave the rest to Master Stevie Wonder. Peace.